Hey everybody, hope you're having a good week. Short video for you today because we already know what this means. So the jobs report just came out and it wasn't very good. 57,000 jobs were added to the economy as opposed to a consensus estimate of 115,000. So right about half. Now with that said, it was still positive. So when you look at recent job reports, this is better than it could have been. Could have been much worse. With that said, it was still off expectations. So when you look at the CME Fed Watch tool, which tracks the likelihood of a federal funds rate cut, the odds of an interest rate increase used to be above 30%. Now they're about half of that, about 15%. If you ask me, the most likely outcome for the next Federal Reserve meeting is that they will not raise interest rates, but they will not cut interest rates. What this jobs report signified is that the labor market is not weak per se, but it's also not strong. So the Federal Reserve is basically in this place where it looked for a while like the jobs market was really, really bad. Then we got a couple of decent reports, which of course Kevin Warsh, people were saying, well, maybe he'll cut rates because of the decent reports. But of course, he's kind of hawkish, at least on the surface. So when you mix all that together, like in a bucket, and you come out with the answer, the most likely answer is that right now the jobs market is stable-ish on paper. Okay, I know that if you're out there looking for a job, it's not a pretty picture. But on paper, it's all right. But at the same time, inflation is still through the roof. Most recently, because of the oil crisis and the Iran conflict that caused that. So all in all, that's really that's what we should answer. What is the likely outcome for the rest of the year? We can sit here and we can try to predict, our rate's going to go up or rate's going to go down. What is the likely outcome over the next 12 months? Well, I would say that the most likely outcome, at least for 2026, is no interest rate changes. That's probably the default base scenario. Probably no interest rate hikes and no interest rate cuts. And I know you have people on either side saying, well, actually, Kevin Warsh, he's beholden to Trump or whatever, or he got the job because he told, it makes sense that he would lower interest rates. And then other people are like, well, Kevin Warsh is actually traditionally hawkish. There's no way he's going to cut rates unless there's a crisis. He's not going to do anything. That's my opinion. And we'll see by the end of this year if that remains true. And then we'll see if in 12 months that remains true. I think the further out we go, the more likely it is that we get an interest rate cut. So I still think the more likely scenario is an interest rate cut over an interest rate increase. Now, I'm not saying that it's the most likely scenario. I think the most likely scenario is no change. The straightforward answer, probably nothing's going to happen. Second to that, at some point, we're going to get interest rate cuts. But people were saying, well, we're going to get interest rate increases. You have to understand there's this thing called R star, or the neutral rate of interest. And I'll end the video here. What R star represents, and it's not really known, it's just the Federal Reserve and economists are always trying to find where R star is. Basically, if you have the FFR above R star, you have an inflation fighting effect. If you have the FFR below R star, you have it supports a jobs market, but it has an inflation causing effect to a degree. So at the current rate, I still think we're above R star, which means this is still a little bit of a restrictive policy at these rates, and it is probably having somewhat of a positive effect against inflation. So if the conflict in Iran actually ends, we remove that inflationary pressure. We're not really getting inflationary pressure from the jobs market because on paper, again, it's not strong, but it's also not weak. So put that all together, we're probably above R star. We're probably going to remain here for the rest of at least 2026. Okay, I don't want to ramble. This is supposed to be a short video. If this video was blunt to the point, if you learned something, if you took something away from it, please consider subscribing. It's difficult to grow here on YouTube, so I genuinely mean this when I say this. Every subscription means the world to me, and I appreciate it. If you like personal finance, world economics, and investing, you're in the right place. That's all we talk about on this channel. These videos are supposed to be weekly, but they're like every other day at this point because we live in a crazy economic world. So I'm sure I will see you for the next one shortly. Until then, I would love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. I hope you have a fantastic rest of your day. See you in the next one. Take care.